Hi, everybody. Andrew Champagne alongside JD Fox for this week's edition of Champagne and JD. If you're just tuning in for the first time, first of all, welcome. Know that we really appreciate it. If you like what we do, go on down below, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Really helps us out. Also, big thank you to everyone that voted for us in the ABR Fan Choice Awards. Know that we really appreciate that, and we really appreciate your support. You may have noticed that we didn't have a show last week. That was due to a variety of reasons, not the least of which was I was in New England for the first of count them, 4 weddings in 6 weeks. We'll talk a little bit more about that in my final thoughts segment, most likely. But we are back. It is Labor Day weekend coming up. It's closing weekend at Saratoga. It is also opening weekend at Kentucky Downs. And in the spirit of that, JD, we've got a great guest this week. She needs no introduction, but I'm going to give her one anyway because that's just the kind of guy I am. We're very happy to have her back on the show. Does a lot of work with GOAT handicapping. Great show that they do. Great product they have on their website. Kaitlin Free joins us. Kaitlin, welcome back to the show.
Hey, so good to be back with you guys. This has been a while.
It's our pleasure. Yeah, I think the last time we had you on was for a big day in Australia. So I know JD just perked up, of course, because anytime anyone anywhere says Australia, his ears perk and he goes, what? Quaddy? What?
No, it's and we're getting to that time of year where we've got some Group 1 racing every weekend in Australia. Exciting times as the temperatures warm up and the rain hopefully stops in Australia. They needed the rain last year. I think they've had enough of it now. I think they're ready to get to racing.
Send some of it to California pronto.
But we do want to talk about the Kentucky Downs late pick 4 on opening day Sunday. But because Andrew Champagne is a partial co-host of this show, and we're at the closing weekend of Saratoga, we have to talk a little bit about Saratoga. So these are, well, it's one topic that Andrew lined up, and then a second one that I put in there just to irritate him. But yes, is it the Spa or is it Belmont this weekend? I'm very confused, Andrew.
It's a very good question. Now, for those of you wondering what the heck we're talking about, we're referring to the fact that a couple of big races from Belmont Park's fall meet, or at least traditionally Belmont's fall meet, were moved up to Saratoga to closing weekend. This includes the Jockey Club Gold Cup, as well as the Flower Bowl for older fillies and mares going long on the turf. They also moved up the Sands Point, so a race named after a point that I believe is on Long Island is being contested in upstate New York, 3 hours away. Okay, then. At any rate, there was a big discussion about this on the Naira show on Fox today. And by the way, if you haven't been watching that during the summer, what the heck have you been doing? It's really cool stuff, and it's tremendous work that everybody on camera and off does on that show. They talked a lot about preserving the integrity of certain races and the fact that the Jockey Club Gold Cup had really been suffering because a lot of horses don't run as often as they used to. And I need to be very, very careful with the way that I word that when I say that. I need to make it clear. This is not, I repeat, not an indictment of trainers, how they handle their barns, and how they campaign their horses. It is an indictment on the state of the breed, which has gotten far, far weaker, and the fact that they're just not running as much. And as a result, horses were running that last weekend in August, the first weekend in September, and then not running again until the Breeders' Cup. So this was their move to attempt to keep the legitimacy of the Jockey Club Gold Cup at Grade 1 status. We could talk a little bit about if that worked or did not work. My take is I understand why the New York Racing Association felt the need to do this. And this is not their fault. It is not their fault that horses being bred just don't run as much. They need to adjust just like everybody else, and that's fine. So everybody that's been trying to blame Naira for this, your blame is misdirected. Where you need to look is in the way horses are being bred. When you have horses that are being bred in some cases to run 1 furlong as a 2-year-old at a sale, as opposed to running 10 furlongs at age 4 and 5, or having campaigns that go beyond 6 or 7 starts, this is the type of thing that happens. You'll wind up with horses not running nearly as much, and as a result, a lot of these big spots just don't seem as big. JD, Kaitlin, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think rehabbing the Jockey Club Gold Cup, it's such a prestigious race over the years, and it has meant almost nothing probably for the last decade. And I look at this field of 6, and it's not exactly awe-inspiring. It's so much so that I can make a solid case for Night Ops, who has finished second in 4 straight races, including just 2 grade 3s and then a couple listed stakes.
I don't have my hanger. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and is probably a serious contender in a grade 1 race with such prestige. It's very sad to see. So I'm glad they're trying something, and I think obviously having, going to have a big closing weekend crowd out at Saratoga and increasing the racing product with some more graded stakes races is probably good overall in that situation. But it also means I don't know what's left of this Belmont meet, and that is a bit of a concern as well for the remainder of summer. And what type of quality, or if we're going to see some barns ship some horses elsewhere. And unfortunately now I don't know where that elsewhere is, because Gulfstream Park is going to make the move to Topeka and shut down the turf in a couple weeks. Southern California Racing right now is Southern California Racing. I just don't know where the horses will go. So maybe they will stay at Belmont, but I'm afraid the purses may not be there.
I agree for sure. I understand why they did it. And I agree with JD. Not sure where that leaves the Belmont meet this fall. That was kind of their marquee event. But I understand why they moved it, trying to cultivate it and build it back up. Yes, this is not the greatest field, but I also don't think it's terrible, because if you think about it, our older horses, aside from Nixgo and Maxfield, I mean, who do we really have?
No one.
So, I mean, you asked for some decent horses to show up. These are decent horses. Grade 1 quality, maybe not. Happy Saver, I think probably is. But, I mean, yeah, it's a field of 6. But, I mean, for what they were going to get, because Nixgo or Maxfield was not coming there, I think they got just about as good as they could get with what we have running this year. So I don't mind it. There's a horse I do like in there, and I think it's a pretty interesting betting race. So I won't mind playing it.
The horse that I'm very interested in seeing run, and I don't know if this is the horse you were talking about or not, I'm looking forward to seeing how good Forza d'Oro is, because Forza d'Oro came in, ran an allowance race, and ran those horses off of their feet. And I don't think he's got to be a world beater in order to run well in this spot. I respect Happy Saver. Not quite sure he's the same horse he was late last year when he won this race last year. It's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. Now, we've talked about where this leaves Belmont and whatnot. One important note, they did move the Woodward back to Belmont, and that's going to inhabit that spot on the calendar, which is one thing, except instead of getting that sort of 1.5 turn, 1.25 mile race, you're getting a 1-turn race at 1 1/8 miles, and you're going to get some horses that, honestly, it wouldn't shock me if they use that as a prep for the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile. And my God, that just seems backwards. So it's going to be interesting to see how they do it. There are a lot of really good races coming up this weekend at Saratoga. Good card coming up on Friday. We're recording this on Thursday night. Really good card coming up on Saturday. And then the last couple of days of the meet, headlined by the traditional 2-year-old grade 1 races, the Spinaway for the fillies, the Hopeful for the boys. Interested in seeing how Witt handles the stretch out to 7 furlongs. Not going to be an easy field for him. And also, we're going to see some really good 2-year-old fillies in that Spinaway. There was a horse that earned a gigantic buyer speed figure whose name is unfortunately Echo Zulu.
Yep.
92 buyer speed figure, I think, in the debut. Just freakish. And by the way, how good are the offspring of Gunrunner? Let's just talk about that for a second. Everything that horse is throwing is running. It's going to be fun to see some of those horses back in action later this week.
Yeah, and one other horse I want to mention in the Spinaway, Tarabi for Cherie DeVoe ran an amazing maiden race. Obviously, that was at Ellis Park. A little bit different, but a big number there as well, and gets Javier Castellano riding the rail there. Second start, don't necessarily know if I want the rail in that spot, but his horse has tactical speed. Hopefully he can get out of it. I think she has a big shot. We don't have the morning line there, so I don't know what type of odds you're looking at there, but if I were to guess, probably 4 or 5 to 1 on that one for Cherie DeVoe, who just won her first graded stakes race a couple of weeks ago at when Churchill closed. So
yeah, I'm really
random facts.
I'm really excited about the 2-year-old crop we have this year. They seem pretty good so far. I've been driving the Practical Joke train ever since he retired about him being a good stallion, and boy, he has not disappointed. I knew Gunrunner was going to be really good too. These two are just standouts, and I really, really like him. I think he could really be something special. So really excited to see those 2 race this weekend.
It's going to be fun. It's going to be fun seeing a lot of the horses run back. In some cases, you might see some horses that want to go 2 turns, that 1.125 distance, that aren't going to get that kind of trip at Belmont because of how massive Belmont Park is. So watch those 1.125 races, specifically some of those claiming races where trainers may well try to run a little bit under what they should be in order to get a horse a win, get in the winner's circle before the Saratoga meet ends. There's not a lot of suspense around the owner, trainer, jockey races at this point. Chad Brown has started running away with the trainer stats. Hi, Chad Brown, my favorite trainer, Chad Brown. How you doing? Luis Saez is actually chasing Ramon Dominguez's single meet record. That one's going to be pretty fun. There's a race for the ownership title where Klarovich Stables has a little bit of a lead going into the last weekend. We'll see how that pans out. But there's going to be a lot going on at Saratoga. And it's a special place, and it's one of those places where you see 40 days, and it somehow feels like both a sprint and a marathon at the exact same time, because you see everything going rapid fire as the days go on, and then you wake up in mid-August and go, what the heck is going on? I can't see another racing form. They start looking like Egyptian hieroglyphics. But it is on that note, and I have no idea why he did this or why he feels it relevant. This was done without consultation with his co-host, but JD has something down there called the Search for Win 129, and I don't know why he put it there, so I'm just going to give him the floor for a moment.
Well, if you follow Andrew on Instagram, 128 winners, or you follow him on a site that I will not give any plugs for on this particular podcast, with stables and maybe slapping people. Yes. I mean,
I have not been on
Grounds
there
in a
for quite
little bit,
while, just to be clear.
But Andrew had 128 winners a few years ago, and it looks like he's going to crush it. Or is he going to be on the last day searching for that win 129?
That's always the way it works, right? Baseball players get up to 2,999 hits, and then all of a sudden the ball starts finding fielders, and these gappers turn into outs. It's one of those things. But no, at the end of the day on Thursday, I wound up with 124. If I go 3 a day out the door, which is what most public handicappers strive for, then yeah, it's going to be a new career best for me. We'll see what happens. As we record, I am 2 wins up for the all-media title at Saratoga, which probably about only 5 or 6 people still care about. Me, John Shapazian, Tom Law, and our editors. That's pretty much it at this point. Also, Charles Bedard's in 4th, not without a shot. He's at 116, I believe. I'm at 124. Law and Shapazian are each at 122. So it's been a case where during every racing day, I've got a couple of different browsers set up with my picks, with the Saratoga Specials picks. And by the way, the Saratoga Special does a lot of really good stuff. If you haven't seen their stuff, go to thisishorseracing.com. Look, the old school mentality of going against certain publications and whatnot, I don't subscribe to that. The Saratoga Special does a lot of really good work, along with the Pink Sheet, with the Times Union, and everybody's been busting their butts this summer. It's been a very busy summer. Give them some love, whatever publication you wind up reading. And you'll be able to catch all the updates as far as the ever-changing leaderboard every day through my personal website, andrewchampagne.com, or my social media handle at andrewchampagne on Twitter. Got to tell you, after the Saratoga meet ends, I'm probably taking a little bit of a hiatus from active horse racing Twitter because, as you guys can both attest, it gets exhausting.
Yes.
I have no idea what you're talking about, Andrew.
Yeah. And Nick's go in the Pegasus is all I got to say about that. My God. Anyway, so with Saratoga in the books, at least for this show, we're going to shift gears a little bit because Sunday is opening day at Kentucky Downs. If you're not familiar with Kentucky Downs, you need to be. It is one
Shame
of
on you.
It's one of the quirkiest turf courses in the country. The fields are gigantic. The purses are gigantic. And as a result, it makes for some very attractive wagering propositions, including a late pick 4 on Sunday with a 14% takeout. So if you're a takeout snob and you're not playing this ticket, just shut up. Nothing bothers me more, by the way, than the people who claim to be takeout snobs, are presented with low takeout wagers, and then don't play them, find reasons to bash that. Just pick a side and stay there. Ran is over. There are 11 races on the Sunday program. The late pick 4 starts in race number 8. So if you're following along, get your PPs out. Let's have some fun. Race number 8 is a maiden special weight event. 2-year-old fillies going 6.5 furlongs on the turf course. It's one really big sweeping turn, and then they go into the stretch. Really, if you haven't seen this turf course, you need to try to find an angle for it because you're not going to believe what you've seen. And speaking of seeing things, it doesn't look like all the horses were there. There we go. We've got a field of 12 horses plus 3 also eligibles. And the reason I haven't commented too much on individual horses is this is the epitome of a grass grab bag. You could make cases for a lot of runners in this field. Looking at this field, the lukewarm morning line favorite is number 3, The Devil You Say, who ran second in a spot at Ellis Park. That day's third place finisher, She's Gone, also comes back in this race. JD, how do you want to do this?
I'm going to actually kick us off here because I don't really have a strong opinion. I want to talk about a couple horses, though, that may be off the beaten path. I think Delight of the Nile at 6-1, we'll probably talk a little bit here. That's the one horse I have that does not have a strong turf pedigree, but had a good debut, second place effort. And again, we talked about a certain CJ Johnson, and he knows his way around a condition book, and he knows where to place horses. So if he's confident against this field that the early speed that this horse showed at Ellis on the dirt is going to carry over to the turf, I have to have it on a ticket where I don't have a strong opinion. Actually, what's interesting to me is straight from just a pure pedigree standpoint, I'm in love with Paris, Kentucky. It's a small place on the map, about 10,000 people, but the racehorse Flintshire out of a Scat Daddy mare. I mean, I don't know anything else that would scream like turf and probably has a chance at being strong first out other than that. And obviously you look at Ignacio Correas, not the strongest first-time starter trainer, but usually has them at least somewhat ready to go. You know, hits the board quite often, over 25% in that. Works are pretty decent and has a strong mix of 4 furlong works with a nice 5 furlong bullet mixed in. Paris, Kentucky's 20-1 on the morning line, but just from a pedigree standpoint, I mean, seems head and shoulders above this field from a turf perspective, so I have to include at a price. The Devil You Say is going to be the favorite likely in this race, I think, 7-2 on the morning line. She's Gone 3-1 on the morning line. I was not impressed with that effort at Ellis Park, and I actually threw the morning line favorite at 3-1 off the ticket. One thing quickly, the 15 under one sky, and you see McGahee on the line, but it is not Shug. It is Reeve McGahee sending this one out on the also eligibles. Needs 3 scratches to get in. But this is a horse by Unified out of the Fuji Kieki mare Weekend Sky, Australian bred, who dominated in Singapore and is going to send out a Kentucky-bred starter potentially here in this race. There is a lot of sprint pedigree here. There's not a lot of turf pedigree, but there's some very interesting sprint pedigree here to where if this horse draws in, crazier things have happened. And when I don't have a strong opinion and I see a pedigree like this, I got to include. So I am going 7 deep here. It'll probably be 6 deep, but 2, 3, 6, 7, 10, 11, and 15. And you shook your head, Andrew, so you get to go next.
Yeah. If those 3 letters, AUS, are not by the dam, ain't no way he uses that horse. I'm just throwing that out there. We actually see this race fairly similarly in that we're both going pretty deep, and I'm using 3 horses that you also used there. I'm using both The Devil You Say and She's Gone. You mentioned She's Gone is actually the 3-1 morning line favorite. The 3 is 7-2. I think that's going to flip-flop. I think the 3 is probably going to go favorite here, but there's two others that I think are meriting consideration. Number 7, Mrs. Nushi, is a very interesting case as a second-time starter trained by Larry Jones. Larry Jones's first-time starters almost always need a race to get going. And I didn't think she ran badly last time out at Ellis Park. She goes dirt to turf. She has a 300 turf Tomlinson. That shouldn't be a problem. And I love the fact that she comes in off of a very fast 4 furlong drill. I think this is a horse that's sitting on a big improvement at a pretty big price. And we've talked about pedigrees a lot because there's a lot of first-time starters. What's wrong with the pedigree on number 10, Queen Judith? By Empire Maker out of a more than ready mare. That's turf top and bottom, may want a little bit longer, but has worked very well for Mark Cassie. Julian Leparoux is up. Cassie, Leparoux, Kentucky Downs, 8-1. If that horse wins and I don't have it on my ticket, I'm going to be very, very upset. I think there's reason to believe that one's got some talent. I went 4 deep in here. If I was going to go 5 deep, I would throw in number 11, Robin Hill, a first-time starter from the Brad Cox barn. But that's another instance where I think that horse just wants way more ground. By Kitten's Joy out of an AP Indy mare. You want distance, you're going to get distance with that kind of a pedigree. 3, 7, 8, and 10 for me. If there's a scratch elsewhere in the sequence and I can affordably throw in number 11, Robin Hill, I might do that. But for now, 3, 7, 8, and 10 for me. JD and I are using some common horses. Kaitlin, how do you see it?
Pretty similarly. I kind of threw in, I guess, maybe one that you guys didn't have. I believe that might be the runner that I was especially looking at. Not sure which number it is, but there is a horse in there that is out of a full sibling to Optimizer. You guys remember Optimizer?
Wayne Lucas tried to kill that horse by running it every 2 weeks on dirt before realizing he had a turf horse on his hands. Yeah, I remember Optimizer. Heck of a turf runner.
Yep. Almost beat Wise Dan in his best day. So I saw Cello in there. I think it's this race. It may be a different race, but I'm pretty sure it's this one where Cello has a daughter in there. And I thought, Calumet bred turf horse out of a full 2 Optimizer. I like that. So I went with some of the other ones you guys picked as well. Like you said, kind of a grab bag in this race. I played a lot pedigree wise and looked at some of the past works and stuff like that. But really, I don't have a strong opinion in this race.
Yeah, it's one of those where you spread and you hope like heck you've used the right runner. You can make a case for a lot of these. Remember, it's a 50-cent mutual, so you got to afford to cut things down, especially if you want to build your ticket around one stand. I've got one. It's in the last race. That's called Foreshadowing, kids. And speaking of narrowing things down, we move on to race number 9, the first of 2 stakes races in the sequence. This is the Dueling Grounds Oaks for 3-year-old fillies going a mile and 5/16. $500,000 on the line in this one. Number 6, Adventuring, your 3-1 morning line favorite, coming in off a 3rd place finish at Ellis Park. I've got one question for both of you, and whichever way we want to go with this is fine, but where's the speed in here?
You talked about it, Adventuring, and that's a horse that doesn't have speed. But I think Adventuring is going to be in front, and I don't think anybody's going to catch her. So I have Adventuring singled here, Andrew, and yeah, there's not a single one to start a race for Adventuring, but I looked at this race and see it that way, and I will say the Timeform US pace projection has Adventuring out on a lonely lead here with Joel Rosario up for the first time on this horse. And obviously this horse has won on dirt. This horse has won on synthetic. This horse has not won on the turf, but 2 decent efforts in some stakes, one at Churchill, one at Ellis, and there's just not a lot here in this field. So I'm just, again, pretending the Black-Eyed Susan didn't happen because obviously Adventuring was well back that way and ended up being eased out of the race that Army Wife won, obviously. But decent races. The maiden victory at Fairgrounds was good. The Turfway Stakes race was very good. I have no problem with Adventuring here. And I do think, despite not seeing it on paper, you see involved in the early action, tactical speed. Hasn't shown that on turf yet, but I do think Adventuring will potentially wire this field. Kaitlin, your thoughts on this race, because I think we're thinking somewhat similar here.
I think we thought exactly the same. I really like adventuring in this spot. I think she can translate really well on turf. I like the way she runs on synthetic. There isn't a lot of speed in here, but I kind of saw it the same way as you. She's the one that makes the most logical sense to go to the front. Maybe she'll try to slow it down a little bit since she's obviously not very speedy and will try to come play catch me if you can. But she's really the class of this field, and I don't see why she couldn't run really well on the turf.
You know what happens if both of you are wrong? Anyone can win. And as a result, I am punching the all button in this particular spot. Look, all things being equal, if there was any pace in this race, I would like adventuring a lot. And in fact, she's a cool horse with a really cool pedigree by Pioneer of the Nile out of a mare named Questing, who ran several gigantic races at this place right back here, won the Alabama by 8 or 9 lengths. I was there that day. Just a phenomenal performance by a phenomenal filly. But I'm looking at this. I do see that she showed a little bit of speed earlier in her career. That last out effort at Ellis Park, I thought the race fell apart for her. I thought that was a case where it invited closers into the race. She was 9 lengths back at the second call, rallied, got beat a half length. I'm not so much, trying to poke holes in her, but I think there's every chance that we see. I'm trying to find a diplomatic way to say this, but it would not shock me if adventuring was not given an aggressive ride out of the gate. There, I found a diplomatic way to word it. I'm proud of myself. Pen in the back. Anyway, I think whoever makes the lead wins the race, and I don't know who it is. So as a result, I'm hitting the all button, and I'm hoping for a price. If adventuring beats me, she beats me. But even if she wins, she's 3-1 on the morning line. She might be favored, but she's not going to be overwhelmingly favored. And I really do think there's potential for some chaos in here. I mean, you look at a horse like, say, number 7, Olivia of the Desert, going second off the layoff for Ken McPeak. All that horse did 2 starts ago was win a stakes race. All she did last year was place in a couple of stakes races and win the trapeze at Remington. Doing so, well, maybe not showing a ton of early speed, at least getting interested early. There are a lot of different directions you can go here. Adventuring is probably the most talented runner in this field. But if they go really slow up front and adventuring isn't part of the pace, I think she's very vulnerable. So I'm hitting the all button here, and I'm just hoping we get a price on.
I was very, very close to adding Serene, the 1, as another potential pace horse, but I don't know what to do with this horse. 3 career starts, $800,000 Keeneland September purchase in 2019, made the debut at Saratoga for Belmont, then moved to Arlington Park for Ian Harty and just dominated a field of just basically nothing on the synthetic. I have no idea how that horse went off at 7-2 with the pedigree and the
makes you feel like you missed something when you see stuff like that, right?
Right.
Yeah, and then the comeback effort with Rocco Bowen aboard for both was decent in that allowance race. I mean, there could be some talent there. Obviously, big sales price, tap it. Smart Strike mare. I mean, everything makes sense there. Godolphin obviously owning the horse, but I want to see Serene one more time. So that's why I decided singling adventuring, just because the most talented horse, and I still plot adventuring to be up front. But one thing we didn't mention, I mean, this is a mile and 5/16. It's also the first time any of these horses have tried a significant distance. So who knows? But who
knows? And that's why I hit the all button there. Yeah.
Yeah. You either need to take a stand or you need to go with everybody. So we're moving on to the male version of this race, which has a funny name. And I don't know if Andrew wants to say it or not.
I'll say it. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, this is the main event of the Sunday program, the Big Ass Fans Dueling Grounds Derby. Our favorite sponsors in horse racing are back at it, and they are sponsoring a race worth $750,000. Lots of money up for grabs at Kentucky Downs, and we've got a very big field signed on. If this doesn't look like enough horses, don't worry. We've got 2 more on the very next page, including the morning line favorite, number 12, Du Jour, who you might recognize as being a former Bob Baffert trainee, now in the care of Bill Mott, exits a third-place finish in the Grade 1 Saratoga Derby Invitational, was beaten 3.5 lengths that day, stalked a pretty fast pace, is going to be at least 5-2 on the morning line, maybe even a little bit lower. Where do you want to go here, JD?
I want to hear from you first here, Andrew.
Sure. So Du Jour is the most likely winner. I'm not going to get too cute here. This is a horse that showed he could get a distance of ground, not just last time out, but the start before that, when he finished fourth, beaten a little over 2 lengths by Bolshoi Ballet, when that one was actually given a good ride, as opposed to the one he got in the Saratoga Derby Invitational. But Du Jour is probably supposed to win this race. Logical favorite. I don't think there's a ton of holes, with the exception of that far outside post. But I do think that this is a horse with enough tactical speed to be able to clear most of the field at a fairly early juncture. And if this horse gets an easy trip on or near the lead, he's probably the most likely winner. There is another horse, though, that I needed to throw in that is going to be a pretty big price. And that's number 4, Modern Science, because what has he done wrong? Modern Science has 6 starts and has never been worse than third. Last time out was on the lead at Ellis Park, was third beaten a neck. Start before that showed he didn't necessarily need the lead in order to run well. Stalked a very fast pace, was third beaten a neck. I love the pedigree on this one, stretching out in distance. By Galileo, out of a Dixie Union mare. That's distance top and bottom for Ian Wilkes, a very patient horseman. I think Modern Science is sitting on a career best effort, and at his likely price, I needed to have him on the ticket, because when you get a horse that's getting a chance to do everything he wants to do, and he hasn't done anything wrong to this point, and he's 12-1 on the morning line, you got to use the horse. And I feel as though Modern Science rates a big chance, especially if he's left alone up front. 4-12 for me. Du Jour probably wins, but if he stubs his toe, I think Modern Science has a big shot at a big price.
Saw it the exact same way. I saw that Galileo pedigree, saw the form. Ian Wilkes is a very patient trainer. I agree this horse wants to do everything that this race has to offer. Modern Science for a price. Really, really like him. But I agree with you on Du Jour. This horse most likely wins this race. Really, really good horse coming out of the Baffert barn. As we know, Baffert's not really a turf trainer anyway, no matter what happens. But he got this horse to run on the turf some way, somehow, and do decent. So this is a decent turf horse no matter what. So those are the 2 I really like. And I also threw in the 8 in there just for a little bit more coverage.
I have something bizarre on my ticket, and I want to talk about it a little bit.
Not allowed.
We agree.
I have the 2 on here.
Okay.
Who will likely scratch out of this race. But in case they don't, I love this angle of adding distance coming back in 7 days. This horse ran on Sunday at Saratoga. There's a strong chance that this horse scratches, but this horse is bred to run for country mile after country mile, and finally gets the distance, has been screaming for the distance, was not really pushed hard by Lascano at Saratoga on Sunday, and, finished kind of flat actually in the Better Talk Now. I do like this horse a lot. It winds up here, and I think the horse is 20-1 on the morning line because they're expecting a big X to go through. But I think, in effect, 7 days rest is an interesting angle that I would play all day in Australia that we don't see here in the U.S. So I think that one's a heady one to include at this stage. Obviously, we'll know by the time you actually place a wager on Sunday if this horse is in. But I wanted to make sure to be able to spotlight that horse. And yes, we agree. I think the one horse I can really add to the conversation is the 10 Gray Streak. And really, when you look at Rusty Arnold in this spot, he did not have a good meet at Kentucky Downs last year. But this horse has done everything right. If you take out the Churchill race. The Churchill race is garbage. Everything else was okay. Lots of excuses in the first maiden effort. The maiden claiming effort at Gulfstream was good. The Ellis Park Allowance race was great. Again, this horse is bred to get the distance, and you see Lonhro on the bottom side, and that's
what I was pointing out. That those 3 letters, AUS. That's like the bat signal for JD in the racing form.
Lonro stood in the States for a little while.
Oh, I know. I'm just messing with him because it's fun. Do not inhibit my fun, Kaitlin.
So 5 deep from me, you're getting the opinions of my 2 fine cohorts here, and then I'm adding the 2 on a playback angle on 7 days rest, and I'm adding the 10 gray streak. 10 getting off of Lasix is one concern, but I do think you need some depth in this race. I think Modern Science is probably my top selection in this spot. And again, I think Modern Science has a chance to be right there with Du Jour, and it could just be who's the better horse on the day, or it breaks down and chaos can occur. And I think a horse like the 10 can pick up the pieces. So 5 deep there as we head to the finale, which is another gigantic field and another maiden special weight, Andrew.
Yeah, this is one of those races where if you have an opinion, you're going to get a price on it, especially if you're going against number 10, 6 feet apart, the 5-2 morning line favorite. And it's not like I don't understand why this horse is favored. It's a Wesley Ward trained turf sprinter with a couple of very nice figures 2 and 3 back. Only question is, can you stomach that last out effort at Saratoga where it sure looks like something went wrong? And look, another 2-page field. My goodness, the racing office at Kentucky Downs doing some tremendous work. Kudos to them for a really fun opening day program that you're not going to want to miss. And we've got a number of varying opinions here, not so much with JD and Kaitlin, but I'm out on a ledge somewhere. So do you want me to go last or do you want me to go first? Okay, I'm going first, judging by the fact that my ticket just popped up. I'm going against 6 feet apart in here. I just think this horse is going to be wildly overbet. And if she beats me, she beats me. I'll live with that. The more I'm looking at this race, I think there's a lot of early speed signed on. 6 feet apart is going to go. And I think what hurts her more than anything else is the presence of number 11 troublemaking directly to her outside. Look at those fractions that troublemaking put up last time out at Ellis Park. 21-4, 45 flat. They're going to be cooking early. And I think that sets things up for a closer. The one that I landed on is number 8 Vintage Style, who last time out, it doesn't appear like this horse did a lot of running. But then you look at the horses that ran first and second. The winner was Rastafara, a Chad Brown trainee that came right back to win a stakes race. The runner-up, Ego Trip, a very highly regarded Brendan Walsh trainee that came back as a maiden and earned black type by hitting the board in a graded stakes race. That was a very classy event, that Vintage Style exits. And I just think a mile might have been a little bit too long for what she wanted to do. I think 6.5 furlongs is a perfect distance for her. She ran very well going about 7.5 furlongs at Gulfstream Park earlier this year. She's going to get a pace to run at, and I think she's going to be the one they have to hold off late. It's a $36 ticket for me. I basically turned it into a pick 3 with the all button in the second leg. And I'm just hoping to get a price on Vintage Style because I think Vintage Style is going to play far bigger than 5-1 in that late pick 4. And if I'm right, I think this is going to pay a pretty nice chunk of change.
Definitely a stand. And then we're going to have a bit of deja vu, and I'll let Kaitlin go first.
I think I saw it almost the exact same way you saw it. I think we all were kind of in agreement that this favorite is kind of not necessarily a bad favorite, but a beatable favorite.
Underlay.
Yeah. So didn't use her in here. I used a couple of other ones. I really don't have a lot to say about this race. I'll let you speak on it, JD, since we use the same ones.
Exactly, yes.
All right, so Be Like Water, the 2, and Megan's Clara, the 5. Megan's Clara, very interesting here. Blinkers off for Joe Sharp. Last time tried to be a speedball in a mile race taken off the turf at Ellis Park and was done after a half mile. But I like the move of kind of the blowout speed, and now blinkers back off, going to go back to probably the style that we need to win this race, which I think is a closer. And I think Megan's Clara's got the conditioning down, and obviously this is going to be start number 9. So that's not ideal, but it is doing something different here. So they've tried this horse at 5 furlongs, at 5.5 furlongs, and at over a mile. They have not tried a butter distance in the sprint game. and that 6.5 furlongs at Kentucky Downs, it does wear on the horses a little bit longer with the length of that turn. It's probably feels more like a 7 furlong race. It's something this horse hasn't tried. I'm willing to take a shot. And then I think Be Like Water is also interesting. And, Vic Oliver has tried to figure out, was this a one-turn dirt horse? Was this a one-turn turf horse? And now gone to sprinting, and I think the sprints have been better. The last sprint closing against Troublemaking, which you mentioned, Andrew, wasn't able to catch up, but didn't get a great start. It's not listed in the TrackMan comments, but probably a couple lengths slow out of the starting gate there for Be Like Water. I think Be Like Water gets a good break and can get a little closer to the pace and close. I've liked the rally we've seen in both sprint races looking at video for that one. So 2 and 5 for me. So that's going to close me out at $35 total, even though I've got an also eligible in race number 1 and leg number 1 of the sequence that needs 3 horses to scratch out to get there. And then in the leg 3, the number 2 horse, which I would say probably has about an 85% chance of scratching out. So $35 today as we tape on Thursday night, but check Twitter on Sunday at Horse Tickets, and we will have the official selection here as we'll rotate through the tickets. Andrew, $36 play with the All Button of Glory in leg number 2, 4 by all by 2 by 1 for $36, and Kaitlin going with the $24 ticket, 4 by 2 by 3 by 2 for the late pick 4 at Kentucky Downs on Sunday. Excited for Sunday and Monday racing at Kentucky Downs. And to give a little plug, I'll have a long shot video sponsored by Kentucky Downs every day of the meet. We're going to try to find a long shot winner for you guys. We're trying to find the next Bourbonic for everybody on Twitter. I mean, maybe people will listen this time because no one listened when I gave out Bourbonic and explained how the horse was going to win the race, and then the horse won the race.
Well, wasn't it a good thing that nobody listened because you got your price? What was that price again, JD?
It was a lot. It was 73 to 1.
I figured you would know that by heart. I figured you'd have that committed to memory at this point. One quick note before we go into the final thoughts, actually 2. Going to that last race at Kentucky Downs, I would like number 12 Cruise Bay a lot more if the horse had more recent workouts. This is a closer that's being ridden by Joel Rosario in a turf sprint. If you've been watching Saratoga, you know that's how Joel Rosario's won a lot of races. But I only see 2 works since that last out effort on June 19th. I just think that one needs a race. The bonkers price that I will throw at you in that race that you may want to throw in underneath is number 9 Settler. Settler fetched $400,000 at the Keeneland sale in 2019, was 3rd in the debut for Joe Orsino, who does not win a lot of races with first-time starters. A 326 Turf Tomlinson rating for this daughter of Pioneer of the Nile. I've seen far worse 20-to-1 shots, and I think she drifts up. If you're playing the vertical exotics, certainly a horse that I think you want to consider and throw in underneath. Joe Talamo will have them out on that one. But regardless of what your opinions are, get involved. Kentucky Downs has some really good wagering opportunities. If you're a takeout snob, you're not going to find a better meet. If you're a fan of turf racing and handicapping and trying to find prices, you're probably not going to find a better meet. This is a calendar that is dotted with high-quality racing, big purses, some big names shipping in. It's a lot of fun. Shout out to the people down there at Kentucky Downs. Best wishes for a great meet down there. That one's starting, of course, just as Saratoga and Del Mar come to an end. Closing day for both of those fine establishments is Labor Day on Monday. Remember, they run on that holiday Monday. Last of 40 days at this place back here, Saratoga. And if you want to follow all my stuff, go to andrewchampagne.com for analysis, selections, and bankroll plays throughout the weekend.
One thing there, Andrew. So Settler is a half to a horse that was a multiple graded stakes placed horse, and something you probably got in trouble for a lot in college, and that, of course, would be Torrent. Were you a big Torrent guy?
I wasn't. No, I was actually a good kid.
Yeah, I tried.
I know. I realize I cramp everybody's style by just being the sarcastic smartass that makes comments on Twitter and doesn't actually do anything bad.
False advertising.
Indeed. I appreciate you getting that, Kaitlin. We really appreciate that, and that's one of the reasons we have you back on the show. At any rate, It is time now for our final thought segment where we spout off on anything that happens to be going through the sick, twisted minds of JD Fox and I and the occasionally sane, coherent minds of our guests. Kaitlin, the floor is yours. Set the bar nice and low, okay?
What are some good final thoughts?
How's Stormcat doing?
Stormcat's doing pretty well. He gave me a little bit of scare earlier. I thought maybe something was going on again, but he's resting and he's doing pretty well. I gave him a little bit of medicine tonight, but we are past that 2-week post-op mark, and that was the mark where I feel like nothing's going to happen again. So I'm significantly poor since I've gotten him, but he's worth every penny. So, but yeah, he's doing really, really well, and just really excited to get back to the races. I haven't been to the races actually since April in Keeneland. I've been pretty busy this summer and haven't been able to make it to the track. So I'll be at Kentucky Downs, I'll be at Keeneland, hoping to go to Churchill, maybe Breeders' Cup. But one thing I'm really looking forward to is the September yearling sale. I'm super excited to go to that and work at that this year. So
the yearling sale at Keeneland is something that's really, really cool. You see a whole bunch of really expensive horses. You see a whole bunch of really rich people trading the same Brinks trucks back and forth and leaving with different horses than the ones they came. My personal favorite part of the Keeneland sale, though, those later books where you can find the really cool stories of a horse that's bred for $1,000 or $2,500 that winds up selling for $60,000 and makes some small breeder's year. Those stories are some of the best out there. And if you want to read stories on some of those people, I understand he's one of my best friends, so I'm a little bit biased, but Joe Neville's does as good work as anybody in finding those stories. You're not going to want to miss those when sale time comes around.
Absolutely. Also, Justifies sell for the first time this year, so it'll be another very unique and special sale. One of a kind for sure. I went to the yearling sale when the American Pharaohs, his first crop was selling, and that was a very special experience to see. So I definitely can't miss the Justifies.
That's for darn sure. See if they justify that hefty stud fee. I need a drum kit. I've got hangers. I need a drum kit off here. What I need
is missing.
I need a soundboard. One of our favorite YouTube channels, there's a guy with a soundboard as they play competitive cutthroat Uno. I need one of those, JD. Can you hook me up with that for Christmas?
I mean, I could make one out of thin air happen. I have that technology, but we'll see how you are the rest of the year. We'll see if Santa has you on the good list, and then we'll talk about it.
That would be a change, I think, from most years. But JD, your final thought. Tell us something uplifting.
Wow, you're going to put me on the spot and make me tell you something uplifting.
I know, right? Because in Arizona, I know the racing scene is incredibly uplifting. So, there's got to be a lot of good news going on there.
Well, I will say that we're 56 days away from the Arizona Thoroughbred Breeders Association Fall Mix Sale. And I was on site last year, phone call, saw a horse I absolutely loved, went for $5,000 and broke the maiden by 8.5 at Prairie Meadows a couple weeks ago. So I will be there, and I will be begging my friends in the industry that have money to buy horses on my behalf and seeing if it works this year. But no, it's a great organization, and thankfully it's something that's a lot of things in Phoenix are not centric to where I live, which is out in the boondocks where all the horse people live. This is, the sale's 5 minutes down from my house. Take my daughter there. It's a good time. Uplifting will be that it looks like we're a week away. So next Thursday, Andrew, as we record this, we're recording Thursday night the 2nd. On Thursday the 9th, instead of taking my phone and punching to place wagers with the phone system, I can actually use an app or a website to place a horse wager.
Yes.
We're still awaiting a signature from the Secretary of State before it happens, but fingers crossed, we will be able to actually legitimately place wagers on horses and not have to learn track codes and wager codes and all these sorts of things that I deal with on a daily basis that, as I've described it to people, as I've pulled up to my friends in the horse racing community at a bar and actually dialed in and showed them how I have to place every wager that I place, they would basically say they quit horse racing if they had to do that. and these are people that bet large sums of money. It's going to be nice to be a normal person and wager how you guys can wager on a race. So I'm ecstatic for that. But it's Arizona, so I still don't have my hopes up. Andrew?
Hey, you know, first of all, I just got to say, welcome to the 21st century, man. It's a wonderful, wonderful thing. Here's hoping that Arizona gets its ducks in a row in short order. I've got two things. First of all, to those that have read my stuff, to those that have, whether that's online on my site or in the pink sheet, I just want to say thank you. I greatly appreciate it. My website, andrewchampagne.com, gets no publicity other than the stuff I put out. I don't buy Google advertising. I don't go crazy, none of that. And it's about to set a traffic record for a Saratoga summer by a pretty considerable margin. So if you've read any of my stuff, if you've taken the time to send in a comment, know that I appreciate you. Know that I'm very grateful for the fact that I'm doing this for people that are incredibly passionate about horse racing and about this place back here, a place that will always be near and dear to my heart. So thank you very much. I thoroughly appreciate that. My second final thought is a little bit funnier. So I'm in the midst, as I've mentioned, of a stretch of 4 weddings in 6 weeks. This is where everybody out there either drops their jaw or laughs hysterically. The first wedding was last weekend in New England. It was a great, great time. Wasn't in New England for more than about 40 hours. Really quick tangent. Logan Airport. Why are you not allowing ADW access? Get with the program. My goodness. But this coming week is the interesting one. So for those of you that are out in California, you know that we're in the midst of a pretty bad drought, one that has included a number of wildfires in Northern California, several hours from me. It's a little bit smoky outside, but otherwise I'm not affected. Now, my buddy who is getting married found out earlier this week that the state of California has preemptively closed a number of state parks and forests. This matters because the hotel and reception area that he had for his wedding, which he booked a year and a half ago, was technically on forest grounds. So he has spent this week, bless his heart, having to reschedule and rework and find other venues in places that are not closed off. Thankfully, everything is going to be okay with that. This buddy of mine is somebody that worked at TVG for a little while when I was there. You all wouldn't know him. He was in the tech department, but good friend of mine, Mike and Monica, congratulations. And after this, I have 2 weeks off before a stretch of 2 weddings on back-to-back weekends in New York State. So that's going to be fascinating to see how that plays out. My big concern is, how the heck am I going to handicap closing weekend at Saratoga while in transit or in hotels or at weddings? My goodness. And my girlfriend's going with me to this particular wedding. So that could be a little bit of a sticky situation. I'm not counting on getting a whole heck of a lot of sleep. Friday night, I'll be handicapped Monday at Saratoga. Saying, Andrew, go to sleep. I need to look at the hopeful. I need to look at the hopeful.
Do you need to look at the hopeful?
Yes, I do need to look at the hopeful because knowing me, I will find a reason to bet against Wit, and Wit will stumble out of the starting gate, circle the field, win by 10, and make me look stupid again.
Sounds about right.
Consistent, right? At some point, you're going to be right. That's the rallying cry of any horse player. At some point, you're going to be right. Now, whether you're right at Saratoga or Del Mar or Kentucky Downs, we really appreciate you taking some time to watch Champagne and JD this week. Big thanks to our guest, Kaitlin Free. Kaitlin, where can people follow you on social media for all your stuff?
At Kaitlin E. Free on Twitter, and I'm just at Kaitlin Free on Instagram, and basically everywhere else. Do a lot of stuff on Instagram, lots of stuff on Twitter. Going to be having a lot of stuff coming up for the sales, Keeneland, Kentucky Downs. So going to be in Kentucky a lot the next few months. So lots of exciting stuff coming up. You can also find me on GOAT Handicapping. I do the show with Andy there, and we've got a lot of stuff planned this year.
Opinionated people named Andy have monthly meetings.
Yes.
It's a lot of fun. And there's a lot of people named Andrew with strong opinions that work in horse racing, as one of our former guests, Andrew Hawkins, is well aware. He laughed pretty hard when I mentioned that to him. Thank you very much for stopping by. Best of luck in Kentucky Downs this meet. For JD Fox, I'm Andrew Champagne. JD, you want to hit him with the catchphrase?
Everybody stay safe out there and stay off the beaches.